Wow. All right. All right. Well, hello, and happy Wednesday, y'all. Kayla here with Opus Management, and welcome to Water Cooler Wednesday. So, I'm the client account consultant here at Opus Management, and we kind of hang out on Wednesdays and just talk about some of, whatever's kind of going on and whatever you guys want to talk about as far as a business topic goes. So, I'm on in a couple of places. So all of our Opus Management media is got the live feed right now. So you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I also have my TikTok account. That's my personal account that's running up live. That has quite a few people hanging out on it all of a sudden, and they have no idea how this goes. So typically, I spend most of my time talking with my computer and on the Opus, on all of our Opus channels, and then I'll let you guys hang out with me on TikTok on my live, just kind of on the side. So I don't always catch all of those questions, but we're going to try to today because apparently that has decided that it wants to be real excited and have a ton of people on it. So, with that, I just thought we'd kind of talk about, so we've been talking about brands and culture and things like that, but last week we looked at at our CRM options, right? Like, why do you need a CRM? Why do you need to track those leads? Why do you have to have the follow-up, and what kind of information you kind of want to have and deal with throughout that time. So I showed you guys our personal CRM and what that looks like. And so I don't want to we're going to dive into Acumatica, but the way that my system is set up right now, I don't want to get into that one and show y'all because I can't show you client information, and that's the only option I would have today. So we're going to roll on and kind of jump into the next thing. So we kind of talked about taking some of that stuff off of your plate as a small business owner, and, kind of automating some of that stuff with some SharePoint sites and lists. With that, so that's not the only place that you can do this, right? Like having a social media manager really can do the same thing. So we were just talking with a new client kind of around the expectations of a social media manager and what that looks like and what and how we can help them. So their goal, which is where we went and got really clear, their goal is they're striving to grow their placement within their industry, within their geographical area, to really be one of those, be the business that people want to come work for, right? So they're trying to grow their engagement and retain their employees, really being focused in on that brand, which I think a lot of companies miss nowadays. So being able to focus in on, what's going on in the surrounding area, have an engaging platform, get people to start noticing them, and build that brand awareness. So when they do start looking at, when their audience starts thinking about, where am I going to go to work? What do I want to do next? What are kind of my options? They will think of this client. So early on in the year, we talked about, I feel that there is a lot of companies out there that, this is my personal opinion, that really say, I want to be the brand, we want to be the employer of choice. And when it comes down to it, and mind you, I've worked for a couple of them, when it comes down to it, that's just not the case. They just don't follow through on it with all of the things that I would say would prove that, right? Like, you can say it over and over again, but when your frontline workers are telling you that that there's a problem in the system, however it runs and whatever you're doing, like that there's a problem, you can't ignore that. And there's several that do. So having your employees engaged and involved really helps deliver on the being an employer of choice. And and that's where we spent a lot of time before we decide that we're going to represent a company and manage their social media, because honestly, it's a lot to manage social media, if you think about it. That it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to hang out and post some cute stuff. Getting the content, keeping the content on brand, keeping the messaging the same, really can be a struggle, especially if there's interchanging hands that get into it. Knowing which platform that you're on. We see a ton of businesses really hurt themselves on LinkedIn because they're treating it a little bit too much like Facebook, or they're treating it a little bit too much like Instagram with their posting and all the pictures. They're not really speaking to the professional content that is LinkedIn. And so you can't grow your brand there the same as you grow it on Facebook. You can't grow your brand on Pinterest the same that you grow it on Instagram. Like, these things just don't happen. We talk about engagement all of the time, but think about as you're scrolling through your Facebook post, what would you like to see? What would you, what would make you stop and interact with either a post or actually make you type something, make something, engage something. So we see currently a lot of the trends are those trick pictures where they're like, hey, here's your picture, and, tell us where the fourth thing is, and the fourth thing's not actually there. Or the question is, have you guys seen it where they write the Post-it note and then they ask a question on there and it turns a bunch of controversy? It's getting people to engage right now currently on social media is very different depending on the platform, because the way that it presents is they're each very unique to themselves. Even though LinkedIn and Instagram, or Facebook and Instagram are pretty well linked, it's still the same content that you get on the same content that does well on Facebook doesn't do well on Instagram. It's just kind of the piece. So with that, if you've got somebody supporting you there and keeping up with what are the trends and what's doing well on each of the social media platforms, remembering to get into all the social media platforms and posting consistently, those pieces, they will, that'll help you out a lot. And taking it off the plate, because trying to do your job and manage that piece can be a struggle. So having someone that can kind of manage that and then plan it out, right? So that there's a plan. So you're not posting and sharing things that aren't on track with the message that you've been sending. So, and we've kind of been through this once or twice this year as well. You can't just go from a really positive giving tips and tricks to we're just going to share a bunch of stuff, or I'm just going to slam, like, here's all my sales, like, buy this from me now. If your clientele, if your audience doesn't trust you, just like in sales, like, they're not going to buy from you. So if you're not helping them with the problem, or you're not formulating it well, right? If it doesn't all flow, then that can cause you an issue and start to decrease the trust that you're building. So keeping on brand, keeping with the same message, that's going to keep your engagement up. I think a lot of times we forget about posting within the community itself, right? So, like, being involved from the page within the community. So if the company that you're managing their social media with is involved within the community, if they're doing things and raising awareness or going to fundraisers, if they're giving, if they're helping raise money for one of the local nonprofits, if they're helping at the shelter, if they have a work day, clean up, whatever it is. I mean, there's a million things that you can do. If if you're not calling that stuff out, it's only the people that are there. It's only people that are at those events that know about it. And maybe that'll help raise awareness for other businesses in the community and help strengthen the community itself. As you start to become that pillar of community, how do you brand yourself and really work through that pillar, being a pillar of the community, and obviously doing it humbly without being like, hey, look, we donated all this stuff or whatever we did, time, money, all of those things that everybody's looking for more of nowadays. But being able to kind of call it out, promote some other ones. We all win if we win together. And I truly do believe that, right? Like, you can, if you're invested and you're involved, you can grow off of those other things. So just having, just because you're posting on social media doesn't mean that you're going to, one, bring the correct audience, and two, you're going to go exceed your expectations on your growth piece. So, we'll continue to, keep on that, and as a social media management, that'll continue. The content creation will continue, because that's the simple stuff. Being able to look at, the actual analytics, kind of like we talked about the profit piece on seeing those reports, right? So like being able to take find the numbers, and two, pull the numbers in, take a look at it and see what has given you the most return, what's creating the most engagement, what got the most comments, and what really got people to start talking and grow your organic growth is highly beneficial. So when you're looking at it, and whatever platform that you're on, right? Like, you want to know what it is that your audience is. And I know a lot of people talk social media and they say, think about your audience and your niche and all of that. But for us, like, what's the goal? So if the business wants to bring in future employees, right? If they want people that are going to be, looking for jobs within the industry, we've got to be part of those groups within that community, and then we've got to post things that speak to those people. So if you're looking to build your operations team, right, and you want to find things that talk to your accountants and your buyers, your marketing people, what else could you you could, I mean, you really can find ways to talk to that, and engage those people and get on their radar, because ultimately that's kind of what social media is. It's networking without honestly having to talk to somebody. But we have to remember that that's what, in human psychology, that's what we want. There wants to be that connection. So you've got to drive that connection through your posts and through your words. So taking on not a conversation, you don't want it to be necessarily a conversation, but you want it to provoke a conversation. So I'm trying to think where I went with that. We started on performance, like analyzing the numbers, right, and optimizing those, and then I got sidetracked. So we will come back to the conversation piece, but utilizing the data just like you would in any business decision can happen on social, with your social, is what should happen with your social media. If you're not diving into and looking at how things are trending and doing on each platform, you're giving yourself a disadvantage, because you don't really know what's going on. And a lot of times I think that we just kind of assume that we know. I do it. I do it in pieces of my everyday life, right? Like I'm like, oh, I think I know what's winning. I think I know what looks good. But if I don't actually measure it, or I don't, have something to compare it to, it just leads me to, I'm just following a thought without actually having the facts to back it up. So as you're going through this, you've got to look at what's doing well. So what's getting the likes, what's getting more comments, are you getting shares? I think, that's probably your quickest way to organically grab more followers. Even though a lot of your platforms like you to pay for promotion, if you're smart about it, you can drive more and gain more without necessarily having to pay for them. All the platforms want to make money, so you got to ante up a little bit. You're not going to be able to make it with nothing, but we're not talking about spending thousands of dollars a month on Facebook ads. That just doesn't make sense. So make sure that you're taking a look at that, especially if you've made a page, if you've got groups, it depends on the business, right? So like currently, everything that we're rolling off that I've got in my umbrella right now doesn't have a group, right? Like there's not anything in any of those businesses that needs a group. I think that that's something that you can look at depending on your market and what your goal is. But for us, that's just not what we've got going currently, what I've got going currently. So figuring out, what's really going to work and what's getting you results. So easy stuff is, the Motivational Mondays and Throwback Thursdays and all of those little like hashtags that are trending, but you've got to make it relevant to you. So, if your brand's not well known and you want people to understand your brand, you've got to have, maybe it's an HR tip on Tuesdays. Maybe it's, a Throwback Thursday from, how your company is developed. So if if you've been around a really long time and you're really trying to build that presence and get people to understand you, like you've got to know where you came from to know where you're going, right? Like knowing what your mission is, what your core values are in your company. Getting that information out there is going to help drive that piece for future employees. If you're looking at small boutique ownership, right, and like you want to drive that, just posting the picture of your item is not always the best thing, right? Like that doesn't draw me in unless it's just like amazing photography. You've got like this beautiful sunset in the background and horses grazing and, a handful of other things. There's only a few things, right? But if you can't clearly call out like, hey, that's my water bottle, t-shirt, belt buckle, whatever it is that you're selling, if it's not the focus, then you kind of lose that piece too. But watching and getting your customer base to engage with you outside of just, hey, buy from me. We all have that friend that's like, hey, I want money, I need money, I need money, I need money, or whatever. Like, hey, I'm in a new MLM, buy this from me, and it's just a constant. You get tired of taking that phone call, right? You get tired of answering those text messages when that's all they're ever asking you, and you kind of get conditioned to, they're constantly trying to get me to buy something. It gets a little exhausting, and it gets a little crappy feeling telling your friend no all the time, so eventually you just stop answering. Social media is the same way, right? So like if you cram a bunch of like, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff down their throat, they're eventually going to snooze you or ignore you or unfollow you, which that's not what we're looking for here. So think about that as you're going through. As you're rolling through, what do you really like seeing? Think about the big brands and what they're doing. Because I promise you, they've got a social media department that's running it, not just a manager. And so going through that piece. And then, we're in a really opportune time right now in that we carry the internet with us in our pocket, and taking the time to listen to listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, just reading, getting on Instagram and reading, getting on lives like this where you can listen to somebody that's in the middle of it, what's going on, what are the trends, what's going on each of the platforms, how do you stay updated, what can you do to better create content? What can you do to better engage clients? Like, all of that information is at your fingertips. It takes a little bit of work, because there is no such thing as a free lunch, right? Like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm old enough to have learned that in economics. Like, nothing comes for free. You're gonna have to work for it, pay for it. Like, you're gonna have to do something for it. So think about those things as when you're building that, and really get the people to engage with you. The last piece, when you look at having a social media manager, really is they take off some of that headache too, and like making sure that messages get answered, making sure that things don't get left out. We're calling out things from other platforms, so having reviews from customers or having reviews from other people, you want those things to show. You want those things to show across all the platforms, right? Because don't just take my word for it, take all these people's words for it. And if you've created the trust with your community, then they're going to believe you when you post it, and they're going to listen to not just you. And don't make a bunch of shit up, because like I said, the internet's in your pocket. We can look all that information up. So if you tell me that you've got 5 stars on Google Maps or on Yelp or on whatever you're getting rated on, I'm gonna go look, right? Because as much as I would love to give 5 stars, it takes a lot, right? There's just I'm a 4.5-er all day long. I'll give you a lot of grace in a lot of places, but 5's got to be, you got to knock my socks off. So think about it. Getting things automated a little bit, or taking some things off of your plate, especially as small business owners, can really free up some of the stress. We're happy to help here at Opus. If you want to set up a discovery call or even a meeting, you can do that on our website, opusmanagement.us. You can shoot us a message on any of our social media platforms, which is YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find us on all of those, and we would be happy to help you guys out. Again, my name is Kayla. I'm the client account consultant here at Opus Management. Feel free to join me next Wednesday, same time, same channel, and we look forward to seeing you guys there.